Hello and welcome to lesson 95 of the Learning Guitar series. In this particular lesson we're going to continue with our studies of chords, and we're going to basically progress up the neck of the guitar in the process. We're looking still at a 2-5-1 as an excuse to practice minor chord, dominant 7 chords, major chords, and half diminished and diminished chords and augmented chords. If you're not familiar with the harmony theory behind it, you want to refer to the PDF and the lesson 94 before tackling this. Nevertheless, the PDF that comes with this lesson in a way is still self-explanatory. I'll show it to you. Now we're moving across fret 5 to fret 10, and we're still looking at minor chords, dominant chords, major chords, and included as in the previous lesson are substitutions, like in this case, and you'll find them in parentheses when that happens. So we're also combining some degree of, the harmony theory attached to chord substitution in the process. How do you practice? Basically, you can practice each of these 3 boxes like you previously done as a block. So basically this is 2-5-1, then another 2-5-1, and you can take them individually. You can also look at the same family of chords by playing vertically. So you have variations of the same chords, for example, G major 7, like this is an inversion of a C major, and you have C major 9 out of 13, for example. So D minor 7, D minor 6 can be practiced vertically. So basically you have this, D minor 7, and D minor 6. Or like in the other example, you had C major 7, maybe C major 6 or C major 13. And here is an inversion. And as always, you have several pages covering fret 5 to 10, the same way we covered fret 1 to 6 when we did the first lesson 94 on this. So from that point of view, all this is self-explanatory, and if you've done lesson 94, there is nothing new here in terms of harmony and theory. You just keep practicing. What can be interesting at this point is to start moving the chords up the neck of the guitar. So instead of doing maybe 1 bar of D, 1 bar of G, 1 bar of C, you might do 2 bars of D, 2 bars of G, 2 bars of C, and in the process maybe using 2 voicings for D, 2 voicings for G, 2 voicings for C. Let me give you an example. So I could do, this is D minor 9, then maybe simple D minor 7, G major, G7, G13, G7 sharp 5, C major 9, C major 7. The moment I give some rhythm to this, and as you can see, like at the moment, I'm basically moving the highest note of the chords to create some melodies. But as a matter of fact, I'm just going from a chord to another. So these are basically 2 shapes for C. And if I wanted to continue, you would have this, or like we said with the other 9. These are all voicing. Some interesting substitutions, for example, is to play F minor 9 or F minor 7 instead of G7. So basically a tone down from the dominant 7 chords, and I'm basically resolving it into a minor chord. And you have this kind of sound. So D minor, F, C major. Okay, and then of course you have C major here. You have a lot of shapes now you can start playing with in terms of not only moving within like a certain area of the neck, fair enough, but also like starting to create some little chord melodies by using the same chord across. Another thing you can try also is to instead of practicing the 2-5-1, which as you can hear, it sounds pretty jazzy. Also because the 2-5-1 is basically one of the bedrock of that style of music. You can create your own progressions, and I don't know, maybe going from D minor going to B minor. Okay, and that's the progression. So you start playing, I don't know, given the shapes you've done so far. That's D minor. That's B minor. Or you can any minor to any major to any dominant, and of course you can always use the substitutions that will be looked at and start substituting one chord for another. Of course, if you want to combine this into something where you're practicing chords, but you're practicing your lead, let's take these last examples that I gave you. So if I have 2 minor chords and we've done modes, we can look at them in the simplest way possible. If we could look at them in a modal way where the D minor is Dorian and the B minor is also Dorian. So I'm changing scales every time the chord is changing, but I'm going from a Dorian to a Dorian. And you would have this kind of, I'm going to loop it and you'll see. Of course, you could use different modes, like just D minor pentatonic, B minor pentatonic. You can use harmonic minor, melodic minor, you name it. We've done all these kind of scales, so they would all apply. Again, you could think in terms of, we know that a 5-1 is a strong tension resolution. So I can always play, let's have a progression with 4 chords. Again, the first 2 chords are going to be random, and the 4th chord is going to be a major chord, and that can also be random. The 3rd chord is going to be the 5 of the 4th chord. So we're going to create the tension and then the resolution. So let's say, again, we start from D minor as the first chord, B minor as a second chord. Let's say we want to resolve in C sharp major. Okay, that's going to be our 4th chord. Now, if you think of the scale of C sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th of C sharp is A flat. So we're looking as a dominant chord, as a chord number 5, we're looking at A flat 7. So A flat 7 is going to give us the resolution for C sharp. Right? And that kind of, is the idea of tension resolution happening here. But in this case, it's a more, probably it's going to sound, it's random, but it's going to sound a little bit more modern than just a 2-5-1. Let's loop it to see what it sounds like. B minor, A flat 7, C sharp major. And as you can see, it's interesting. In this case, I was using, again, Dorian and pentatonic for D minor, Dorian and pentatonic for B minor, and then I was going into basically C sharp Ionian, which covers both A flat Mixolydian and C sharp Ionian are the same scale, if we're not doing alterations of some sort. actually, let's take the same progression, but this time maybe the A flat 7, instead of playing it as an Ionian chord, let's play it as a super broken chord, which means let's add some alterations to it. We're going to do A flat, maybe A flat sharp 5, A flat 9, because they all imply as a scale A flat super broken. Let's see what it would sound like. As you can see now, we're practicing both chords, chord shapes, and at the same time, we're kind of refreshing scales. Again, you can mix and match pretty much any family of chords. The good thing about the 251, and I hope you understand that, is not that we're practicing jazz, but we're practicing a minor chord, a dominant chord, and a major chord. And because of chord substitutions, like it was explained in lesson 94, we can also apply diminished, and we can also apply augmented. Let me give you an example of diminished. So again, let's use the same example that we just did, the D minor, B minor, then A flat 7. We know that A flat 7 we can actually substitute with A diminished. We saw that in the previous lesson. And that's, again, is going to resolve into C sharp major. And again, an interesting sound. Anything is possible. Again, right now I'm using a clean sound. The rhythm I'm playing is kind of a little bit of a bossa nova, I would say. You could have a distortion on, record some drums, play absolute mayhem, metal, it doesn't matter. You're basically kind of, trying to relate, in this case, a scale to a chord. That's pretty much the relationship. Of course, if you're using crunchy sound, you'll be able to practice chords. If you're trying to use power chords, in that case, the practicing chords goes a bit out of the window. And as I said, you should definitely, these are all interesting chord shapes that go way beyond our basic C major, A minor. Not that these are not good, but I can start thinking, even C major, A minor, I can start thinking of it like and that was C major up to, fret 10, the fret we just played, we're looking into. That's A minor. I hope it makes sense. So there is no more to say about this particular lesson, because literally we're still doing what we did before. So we're still learning chords like we did. At the same time, again, we want to start moving across the neck. So, this will put the fundamentals for some degree of chord melody that we might look in the future, but also like this relationship in between chords and scales in terms of soloing. So you practice a bunch of chords, whatever progression you want to do, can be random, can be one of your songs, And then you start developing your melodic lines on top of it, maybe with a M over loop pedal or a DAW or, you know, a backing track, you know, anything goes. Okay, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for following in. You know, this is lesson 95. Until next time, goodbye.